This is an SOS distress call from the mining ship Red Dwarf. The crew is dead, killed by a radiation leak. Luckily, video records of the survivors' attempts to return to Earth still exist. These blokes, Brent and Paul, are ready to tell you all about them. You're listening to Tongue Tied, a Red Dwarf podcast. Stand by for comment and analysis on your favorite episodes of Red Dwarf.
Good, Benny.
Featuring
Boys from the Dwarf,
Brent Johnson.
Hey, smaghead.
And Paul Towsley.
Better make myself look big.
And now, from the drive room, the boys from the Dwarf.
Look out there! The slime's coming home!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tongue Tied, a Red Dwarf podcast. I'm Paul.
And I'm Brent, and this is the 10th episode where we'll be discussing Series 10 of Red Dwarf, which aired from October 4th to November 8th, 2012. The stories in this season are
Trojan, Fathers and Sons, Lemons, Entangled, Dear Dave, and The Beginning. So we asked several people to guest on our show this year, and this month's guest was one of the first ones who responded. And she said specifically she wanted to choose the last season. Joining us this month, one of the co-hosts of the critically acclaimed all-female Doctor Who podcast, Verity. She's always a joy to listen to, and most recently, a new Stone Roses fan. Say hello to Katrina Griffiths. Hey, Kat.
Hey, critically acclaimed. What's this nonsense? Critically acclaimed. That's adorable.
Well, you guys were nominated for a Hugo, right?
Yes, we were. It's just weird hearing critically acclaimed in regards to our quaint little podcast that, is us, fangirling over a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful show.
Well, in a format that, a lot of people can talk the style of podcast that we do as guy talk. You guys do guy talk great.
Oh, I wouldn't even call it guy talk. It's people talk.
I know. I'm just being a jerk.
So, what's everybody been up to past little while here?
I have been digging deep into the archives and watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which I've been really enjoying. It's the first time through with that, and that's pretty much like my extracurricular TV time for the last month has been that, other than watching, of course, the new series of Doctor Who, which is another great thing to come on, and then American football, of course, as well, which takes up all day Sunday.
Yay.
So, yeah.
I'm going to refrain from saying yay because, football. So are you a Spike or an Angel fan?
Angel. I like what they've been very manipulative with his character and what I've seen so far, because for a while it seemed like he lost any edge to his character, and they were just setting us up for like, oh, Angel's going to go bad and everything's going to go terribly wrong. So like I kind of picked up on that a little bit beforehand, and now it's all come around, and his story is kind of through on what I've seen so far. But then, of course, he has his own spin-off, which I'll be digging into pretty soon here too.
Yeah, the spinoff is good. I'm not an Angel fan, but the spinoff is quite good. I'm much of a Spike fan.
Cool. I guess Spike is going to be developed a lot more than what I know about so far then, so I look forward to that. Very cool.
We went to another concert last week. We went down to Greensboro and saw Motley Crue and Alice Cooper, which was awesome. Seen them both lots of times, but this is Motley Crue's last tour, so man, they did it up. Tommy Lee had a big pretty much a drum coaster that went out into the audience, kind of up and down. When he did his solo, the drums went all the way out into the crowd, like up and down and going upside down and all the way out.
It moved? The whole drum set moved?
Yeah, it was like two rails. And so each side of the drum set was attached to the rails, and it just went out. It was slow, but it was awesome.
Kat, this part of the show, we usually talk about stuff that we've watched recently that's kind of sparked our imagination, or just anything new that's kind of come up. Have you seen anything recently that you like?
I've actually been watching a lot of documentaries. Like you guys mentioned in that adorable little intro, recently become a Stone Roses fan, so I've been watching not necessarily Stone Roses documentary, but I've been watching a lot of early punk documentaries, like Unwritten, which was a Joe Strummer story, and just a lot of kind of, 70s kind of punk, and how Canadian punk versus American punk versus British punk, and how they were all different and how they all cross paths, and yeah, a lot of learning, but it doesn't seem like learning.
That's fun.
Yeah, it's neat to see music, to hear music, and to kind of see the formation of music, and to realize that I know absolutely nothing about bands that I thought I knew a fair amount about. And friends have been extremely gracious and not laughing in my face. When they send me a picture, they're like, "Oh, this is John Linden," and I'm like, "Who's John Linden?" They're like, "How long have you been reading about the Sex Pistols? You don't know who John Linden is?" I'm like, "I don't know who that is. This is some old dude that doesn't look at all like the guy I've been watching, for the past week."
I have the one and only Sex Pistols album on cassette and CD, and I've just about worn it out since I was a teenager.
I have tried over and over again to get into their music, and it took a cover of Anarchy in the UK done in a folk version by the Bad Shepherds, who is actually one of the members of the Bad Shepherds is Ade Edmondson, who is in the Young Ones and Bottom, and so he helped form a band, and they do folk versions of Sex Pistols songs, The Clash, The Stranglers, all these very prominent and a few not so prominent punk musicians.
Yeah, I know a ton of bands have done that song, and Motley Crue and Megadeth.
But until you hear it played on a mandolin and a mandola, it's amazing.
That's really cool. I have to check that out.
I've always found that good songwriting translates over into no matter what genre. You could play that stuff on a church organ and it would still be good music.
That's right.
Yeah, and to be fair, folk music is just, folk and bluegrass is just a different type of rebellion music, which is all punk is. It's just a different type of rebellion, different sounding rebellion.
Yeah, listen to the words of some of these bluegrass songs about, murder and all this kind of thing. Some of it's pretty hardcore.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you guys want to get started?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Cool. All right, let's get started with our first story, Trojan.
Hey, what's this? Found that in Peterson's quarters. Some crazy stuff in that, man. For instance, did you know that in the 1970s in Sweden, 20% of all traffic accidents involved a moose?
A moose?
It's crazy, that, isn't it?
Well, if they're stupid enough to let them drive, what the hell do they expect?
But the moose aren't driving.
You just said they were.
No, they're not driving, they're just causing the accidents.
You mean they're in the back fooling around, distracting the driver? That is insane. Why are they giving them a lift in the first place? Let them walk, they got legs.
No, the moose aren't in the cars, antlers out the sunroof. They're in the roads, moosing about, crossing roads, causing accidents.
You mean they're not looking left and right?
Exactly.
Not using the pedestrian crossings?
Exactly.
Not paying attention to whether it's a little green man or a little red man? Of course they're not, they're mooses. Gee, these Swedes.
Which aired October 4th, 2012, written and directed by Doug Naylor. As Lister remains on hold for his new Stirmaster, the boys respond to a distress call from a ship commanded by Rimmer's long-lost brother Howard, who's also a hologram. First off, we're finally back to a live studio audience, which is great.
Yay!
Yay! Those are the best series, I think, and it looks fantastic too. The special effects, the HD. As far as the story, this one is pretty good. It's basically a Rimmer story dealing with his continued resentment of his brothers and his own embarrassment and failure. He just wants to show them that he's also made of something himself. Especially now that they've run into his brother, who pretends to be the captain of the ship. Rimmer does. But it was a good opener. A lot of funny gags like the resentment overload and the running gag about the moose.
Yeah, just going right to the first scene. I mean, we're millions of miles or millions of light years into space, and who cares? We can still spend some time watching pigs race. Reading stupid facts about the statistics of mooses struck on Swedish roadways and stuff like that. It's just like the series is never going to take itself too seriously if you throw that kind of stuff up at the front. if you think back to the beginning of Series 3, they had the Flintstones conversation, and that just set the table for a whole great series of not taking themselves too seriously.
I'm conflicted with this one because it's the first one, and when I watched it, I was happy because it was New Red Dwarf, and amazing, and yay, but despite Rimmer being my favorite character, I hate the whole resentment thing, like the whole resentment gag, and I don't like the spitting beach ball of doom thing, and I think it's just because Chris Berry has to pull that stupid face when he does it. And I'm like, no, you're my favorite character. You're not. No, stop it. But I love that they picked the perfect actor to play Rimmer's brother, because the guy looks a little bit like Chris Berry. He acts a little bit like Rimmer. He just has the same kind of physical presence, and you can totally see them being raised together in the same household.
Yeah, they did a good bit of casting there.
Rimmer's resentment really stands in the way of his success, doesn't it? Because, instead of spending all of his energy working towards actually succeeding something, it seems like he spends all of his energy resenting the things that he can't have. And it seems like it really gets in his way.
Yeah, and at the end, you kind of expect him to kind of come forward and be like, no, I have to confess to you, I'm not a captain. I'm a technician too. But if he had of, it wouldn't be Rimmer. And I'm so happy that they just kept it with I only have one Lamborghini, not two. And that's his big,
He's actually more successful at lying about what he's doing. So you'd think that maybe he'd just lie to himself about his whole life and get on with it rather than keep trying to pass the test, keep trying to prove something to himself.
Yeah, and I think his own opinion of himself is so important that there's no way he can lie to himself, because even if he tried to lie to himself, he would know, and his own opinion is more important than anyone else's. So it's like this horrible death trap of logic.
You might have a favorite scene or line or anything?
Since it's already been mentioned, I picked the thing that Kat hates the most. I thought that the spinning beach ball eyes were actually kind of a cute effect, and I even liked the crazy faces that everyone kind of has to contort their faces into when they malfunction. They just look so silly, and it's just the perfect little icing on the silliness of the whole story.
I love the two things. One, the droid shopping network, which is just so perfectly shopping network, and the Starmaster, and they're like, oh, we don't need it, it's nothing, and they're like, 2 weeks, what'd you use that 2 weeks for? And this foolish co-host pretending to ski beside her for a good few minutes, like a good minute. So that's just hilarious. And then the other one would have to be when the simulant Sim Crawford, is it? When she teleports, goes to quote unquote teleport down to wherever and ends up teleporting up 2 levels and comes back with a gun. Her delivery of that line is great. She's like, no, I just teleported like 2 levels up and got this.
Yeah, totally.
My favorite was, I think Rimmer was looking at some kind of trivia book or something like that, and brought up the whole thing about the moose. And the cat comes in and just answers it before he could even ask him what it was.
What caused this accident?
What accident?
No, it's a question, all right? Are you ready? It's 1971. A man...
Was he Swedish?
Yes.
A moose.
There's also that scene where Dave is losing it on hold and is really losing his cool, and Crichton's going to take over, and then they cut the scene real quick, and you think that Crichton would be cool about it, but he just completely loses his stuff and is basically swearing at the other droids on the other end of the line. Thought that was kind of cute because he tries to keep it so in control most of the time, but when Crichton loses it, he really loses it hard.
I'm at breaking point, Crichton. I'm about to crack.
Sir, let me take over. As a droid myself, I understand how these things work. I'll have you through to the right department in no time. Now you listen to me, you trumped up piece of metal trash. If you put me through to one more department where I'm asked who I am and what I want, I will shove this phone so far up your...
I'll take over from there, Price.
That dorky leprechaun voice. Do you want to file a formal complaint about being on hold? Somebody who spends a lot of her working hours on the phone with people. Sometimes I sound like that when people are yelling at me.
So, Kat, since you picked Series 10, could you tell us a little bit about why that boils down to being one of your favorite series?
Well, 9, 10, and 3 are my three favorites. And I believe one of the reasons I picked 10 was because 9 and 3 were already picked. But for 10, I guess I know most people don't like 9. And I know why, and they don't like the lack of a studio audience. And 10, I guess, just kind of embodied everything great about Red Dwarf, but still kind of came back. Because Red Dwarf is one of the only shows where I've watched it in order. So I've watched the classic stuff first, and then I had the joy of seeing on Twitter and seeing people tweet about the show coming back and being excited about the show coming back. So I think 10 just kind of, everything about it is good, and it feels like the old show, and you can forget that the actors are older, and they don't look exactly like they used to, even though I think some of them have been doing some magic, because like Danny John Jules doesn't look like he's aged much at all.
It's exactly the same as in Series 1. He just has better clothes now.
Yeah, and he's got a little bit of, kind of, crow's feet kind of thing around his eyes. But yeah, it's just this perfect amalgam of the actors loving what they do and knowing that the actors love what they do, and the studio audience, and just, the HD, and it just looks so nice and new and fresh without losing anything of the old grimy Red Dwarf that we know and love.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a minute, because the sets and the special effects are really top notch in this series. Looking at the old sets, like in Series 1, 2, and 3, it really looks like an office block or cubicles, and it's really kind of just not very interesting at all. And this set, it looks like a functional spaceship. It looks like people need to live in this spaceship for years and years on end. And they did a really great job putting that all together.
I think one of the big things is when they put the corridors in. And British TV is known for its love of corridors and its love of reusing corridors. And the vending machines. I mean, we see a bit of that. I'm thinking of Body Swap especially. We see a bit of the vending machine and the weird voice they used for the vending machine. This has got vending machines that all have individual personalities, as we'll talk about later. But yeah, I think the corridors is what makes it feel big, and what makes it feel like an actual living area and not just a set.
Next up, Fathers and Sons.
Can you hear that?
Hear what?
That, can't you hear it? It's driving me crazy. All over the ship, wherever I go, there's this really annoying whiny sound.
Yeah, it's you. Stop talking, it goes.
Still there.
You're still talking.
Which aired October 11th, 2012. Written and directed by Doug Naylor. Lister's been a horrible dad to Lister, his son. Can Lister live up to Lister's expectations before the new computer cuts off his oxygen supply? So yeah, we got a computer in this one. It's not Holly, it's Pre, and that was kind of a really weird kind of thing that happened there with the whole, like, she can predict what people are going to say, so why bother saying it, or why bother doing anything, because she's just going to do it for you, even if she does it wrong. Stuff like that. That's just kind of weird. One of my favorite lines, Dave is talking about how weird it is to be his own father, and he says some time travel-y, paradox, sci-fi smeg. That's a lot cooler than wibbly wobbly, timey wimey, in my opinion. I like the sci-fi smeg. But then the scenes with Dave doing the tough love parenting on himself and just his reactions, like even like calling himself out on swearing about, swearing to himself in the recordings. He knows himself so well that he can record a two-sided conversation at two different times and really make it fit in together. So what did you think of the new computer there, Brent?
I don't know. When I first saw that, I thought, okay, good. We're going to get... I knew it wasn't Holly, but I thought maybe it would be a replacement for Holly. But no. It was... you could tell right away they were going to do something different there. But this episode, I don't know. It was okay for me. I would say out of the 6, it wasn't really bad, but I would say out of the 6, this is probably my least favorite. I wasn't a huge fan, although, I've only seen this entire series just once, like 2 days ago. So compared to the other 5 episodes, this is probably my least favorite. But I just found all the constant back and forth with Lister being father and son was a little silly, but the new computer did provide a lot of conflict and danger. I don't know. It's a bit underwhelmed. There were some good scenes. Like my favorite was the running gag of the Chinese whispers, which ended up being a Chinese whisper itself when it kept getting changed every time they would bring it up.
My friend, Mr. Cat, he has very strange question. So I ask everyone who pass, see if they know.
What's the question, TT?
Do Chinese knickers have braces?
Do Chinese knickers have braces? Well, I suppose some of them do. Maybe for that extra feeling of security if, say, you're a woman jumping out of a plane in a skirt.
That's what I saw.
Who wants their pants flying off at 10,000 feet?
Kat, what do you think?
I think I like this episode better than Trojan. Just because, I'm a Doctor Who fan. I have to like timey-wimey Smeg. So if there was ever an episode that feels like it could be written by Stephen Moffat, it's this one. And just, I always lose it when he's watching the video of himself talking to himself. And you think he's actually figured it out and actually kind of beaten the cycle with his guitar. And then he's like, go over and look at your guitar. And it's just a drawing of a guitar on cardboard. And the first time I saw that, I was like, that is brilliant. That is just utterly brilliant. That's exactly what Lister would do. So and is it just me, or is it just this episode that Lister's jacket is like purple? Like his whole outfit looks kind of purple instead of a normal leather jacket.
And it's the same jacket, but it's like, is he wearing something different, or is it that?
No, it's the same jacket. It just looks like, Kat got a hold of it and tried to dye it or something. It's got this weird purpley, oily overtone to it. So
hadn't noticed that. Let's go back and check it out.
Yeah, I only noticed it because I have it playing on my TV in the background.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I'm cheating. Pre. I kind of wonder if pre is short for prediction. If that's why they called her pre.
That's a good idea. I never thought of that.
So
that makes sense, and it's kind of cool how Dave uses her own logic against her ultimately to defeat her. It's almost like the future telling episode from a few seasons ago, where what was her name? Oh boy, Miss Marbles there was telling the future and knew that Dave was going to destroy her, but didn't know why.
Oh, Cassandra.
Yeah, Cassandra. There you go.
Yeah, Pre's no Holly, and nobody will be a Holly except Holly.
Yeah.
But.
So Brent just saw this series recently. I downloaded it a couple months ago and have watched it recently, and then watched it again getting ready for this. Now, you were talking earlier, Kat, about seeing the new shows as they came out. And I kind of had that experience with Series 9 because I was, new Netflix subscriber, and went through some of the stuff and then said, oh, look, Series 9, I've never seen this before, and sat down and watched all 3 episodes and had that, new Red Dwarf joy out of all of this stuff. And now after this year, I've actually finally seen all the episodes in the right order. and had the pleasure of coming back and watching Series 10 as it should have been. You know, of course, I'm missing the special features and stuff like that from having the iTunes season pass, but I'm sure that would be easy to come by and look up some other stuff. But Brent, what did you think? You know, did this give you the new Red Dwarf joy?
It did, because I'm like Kat. I've been watching these forever. I think since when I started collecting Doctor Who videos was like in early 90s. And at the same time, I started collecting the Red Dwarf videos when they would come out. And so I've been watching them, year after year, or a couple of years, or whatever. Whenever they would come out, I'd go buy the new set. And so, yeah, I've been watching this for like 20 years. And I don't know, the last few seasons have kind of been up and down. This one I thought was a lot more like the older ones. And it was a lot like... around season 3 time, it reminded me of. In fact, we'll get later to some of the gags were kind of repeated, not really, but a lot of the same ideas, and it was just hilarious. And the audience is back again, and it just felt like one of the older shows. It was.
Unfortunately, there was no Space Corps directive joke and no novelty condom joke.
I thought they were going to do one towards the end, and then they didn't. I think it's the last episode, but we'll get there.
Yeah, I should kind of make it clear that I didn't watch this when they were going out. My age keeps me from doing that. But I did watch them. Probably, I was watching Doctor Who, the reboot. And someone mentioned to me, "Oh, you like Doctor Who, you'll like Red Dwarf." So I sat down and I kind of mainlined these. And I think for anybody that knows me and knows that I do a lot of spreadsheets, and that I tend to obsess over an actor, Chris Berry was like the first actor I did that with. And I watched everything. I watched all of his like car shows. I learned so much about cars because of that. So it's, this show, even though I didn't watch it when it came out, it was nice that I had seen it for when it came back. So I could be one of those people that's like, yeah, Red Dwarf's coming back. And there's another season next year.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of those car shows, too. I also watched Craig Charles had a version of Robot Wars that he was the host of.
Mm-hmm.
Saw a bunch of those. And Robert Llewellyn has a car show that I think he still does.
He does the Carpool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Craig Charles also narrated Tokishi's Castle, which is basically Wipeout here in the States. It's like one of those physical challenge shows.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, there's a couple of YouTubes of, I don't know when it was aired, but it was definitely a long time ago. But it's fun to hear his voice narrating all of the slapstick humor that goes on in those kind of shows.
That's cool.
And I will say, as a last kind of fangirly thing about Chris Berry, I did email him because one of his professional websites, whatever, he's got a contact email, and I emailed it thinking he's not actually going to reply because he's an actor and he's busy and stuff. So I wrote fangirly email about finally being interested in cars because of the way he presents the shows and stuff. And like 3 hours later, he emailed me back and thanked me for the email. Glad I was enjoying the car shows and that I liked Red Dwarf and this other show that hadn't even been announced yet that it was going to be coming out in a couple weeks' time about like planes and stuff like that. So he's a very, very nice gentleman.
That's awesome.
You don't hear that very often. Usually if you submit something to one of those sites, they'll shoot you a form letter back. Thank you so much, but this actor is extremely busy and doesn't have time to respond to all this fan mail, blah, blah, blah. So
this, spelling mistakes and all.
Very cool.
Up next, lemons.
The crates were in transit, sir. I opened the first one and found this. What is it? It's a rejuvenation shower, sir. It rewinds each individual's genome and returns the body to any point in its past. It can restore you to your physical prime.
Oh, man, how great is that? I can go back to last Thursday.
which aired October 18th, 2012, written and directed by Doug Naylor. Accidentally transported to 23 AD, the crew desperately attempt to make a battery out of lemons while saving the life of Jesus Christ. Yes, I said Jesus Christ. I've watched this probably 2 or 3 times, and I don't know what to think about it. Just because I kind of get annoyed with the whole back and forth, and they had copper coins back in Britain, but we're in India now, and it's like, oh, for Pete's sake, just go get the next bit, then go back. Don't constantly go back and forth. That just irritates the little OCD bit of me. But yeah, it's cute, it's interesting. Again, it's the whole as close to time traveling as you can be without a TARDIS. And yeah, I think it's a good middle episode, but I don't think it's actually really that good.
It's really hard to, one up the Kennedy assassination time travel from the previous one, so going back and meeting Jesus and whether he really is Jesus or not is really kind of put into question throughout the story. If he's, in fact, a different Jesus, he just happens to have the name. I've always laughed at the joke when, someone's sitting someplace or in the hallway somewhere and they say Jesus and then they turn around and there's Jesus standing there shaking their hand or whatever. Oh, yes, hello. You're supposed to be saying it as a curse and you're taking the Lord's name in vain, but then, hey, no, it's really just this dude's name. It's Jesus, man, Jesus. and I'm guessing that Wallace and Gromit must have aired around Christmas time. Is that why they're, throwing the Wallace and Gromit joke?
Yeah.
That Christmas is special because Christ doesn't matter anymore, so therefore Wallace and Gromit are gone. And I guess we wouldn't get any Doctor Who Christmas specials anymore either, would we?
I agree. This is one. It's just okay. It had some good lines though. Rimmer talking about the skullet.
The money that guy must have made out of a few lousy expressions and a bad haircut.
Bad haircut?
Don't tell me you haven't noticed his bad haircut. But because he's had a few hit expressions, he gets away with it.
What's wrong with his haircut?
He's got a skullet.
A skull what?
A bald mullet. A skullet. Bald at the front, mullet at the back. You wouldn't want to go out in public with this guy.
And giving Jesus a Vindaloo, all this kind of stuff. And then all the stuff with it all started with a rejuvenation shower malfunction, which you'll never hear on another show. There was one really cool scene in there I wanted to bring up, see if either of you noticed. They bring Jesus to a revamped version of Lister's quarters, and it looks almost exactly the same as the first couple of seasons, except for the color scheme. And if you look really closely, you can see the picture of Lister's grandma above his bed. And it's the same pic from the earlier series.
I didn't see that, but I definitely did appreciate the bunk set. That was a really cool callback to the original series. Because like I said earlier, it's just more detailed. It looks like it's more lived in, and everything like that. They definitely made it for the HD environment.
My favorite scene of this one was Rimmer trying to calculate Jesus' age when everybody else knew exactly. And he just sits there like typing away on his hand and thinking, and that was funny.
The whole Judas thing, why it's Arnold Judas Rimmer. I think that's a really clever kind of, his mother was in a sect, and, Judas was supposed to be the good one, and that's the reason she named him Arnold Judas Rimmer, and up till now it's been kind of a joke of, oh, he lives up to his name, lying, cheating, doing whatever he can. So I thought that was a kind of a cute little moment.
Yeah, that was my favorite scene too, and then of course it had the payoff at the end when Judas and Jesus walk into the cafe as well.
Sounds like the beginning of a joke. The version that I saw, because I downloaded them not long after they aired, had a banner right in the middle of each episode, like the halfway point. Did you guys see that? Or was it continuous?
That wasn't on the iTunes season pass version of this. It was pretty much continuous.
Okay. Yeah, right in the middle, right in the 15-minute mark of each episode, it stops and it shows Red Dwarf X. And then it kind of blinks a second and then shows it again and then goes back like it was a commercial break.
Yeah, so that'd be the edit point for certain commercial breaks, like if it was going to be aired someplace other than England, I'm thinking.
Yeah, it was just weird because I've never seen that on Red Dwarf ever. It's always been continuous.
Well, it aired on Dave. Which I think Dave has commercials, which would make sense. I think they just have like the one block of commercials halfway through, maybe? I could be just making that up.
I mean, that's what it seemed like. But I don't remember that happening in Back to Earth because that was also on Dave.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
And do you get Dave in Canada?
No.
No. So how did you see it?
I believe it was either download or the miracle of VPN.
Ah.
So because Dave airs all their stuff after. It's not the iPlayer, but it's like they air stuff on after, like BBC America does and other channels like that.
Oh, you mean repeats or on-demand stuff?
Like online on-demand.
Next up, Entangled.
You think that cute thing made us speak at the same time?
I doubt it, sir. Probably just coincidence.
What the hell is going on?
Well, it seems the crystals, temporarily at least, have invigorated our psi, making us more prone to coincidence. There was a fascinating book on the subject by a scientist called Arthur Koestler, which was called The Roots of Coincidence.
There it is! How weird is that?
According to Koestler, coincidence is more likely to happen to people in states of heightened emotion, as emotions lower consciousness while increasing the powers of the unconscious.
So, every time we're together and emotional, we're likely to experience this coincidence stuff?
Only temporarily, sir.
Space Weevil!
Which aired October 25th, 2012, written and directed by Doug Naylor. Lister loses Rimmer in a poker game with a group of Gelfs and ends up with a groinal attachment set to explode in less than 24 hours. Balls. So, like, right from the beginning, this is just silly Red Dwarf because Lister gets that huge kebab and just starts, like, he's trying so hard to eat it, but it just keeps falling apart and it falls all out onto the computer. And then he uses his logger to put out the fire and more kebab stuff to ruin the alarm system so that it stops making that horrible sound. And it's so, okay, here's Mr. Sloppy. So then, of course, Mr. Neatnik has to come in. And he all obsessed. Rimmer is all obsessed with the procedures and, focused on the minutia of filling out these forms. And I suppose he has good reason for it, but that's just part of Rimmer's character. So excellent writing for this one because they're just playing up to their own characters perfectly.
Yeah, they enter this whole realm where everything is wrong. And they meet Professor Edgington, whose glasses were upside down, I noticed. My favorite scene was where Crichton is telling him how this place is full of TV critics and referees and things like that. That was cute. But overall, again, it was a lot like Fathers and Sons, where there's an immediate danger to Lister in the second half of the episode, and they have to decode a computer to save him. But this one was better, I thought. I thought it was funnier. And the end was a bit of black comedy that I didn't expect, where the professor trips and falls out of the airlock and dies. Totally didn't expect that.
I was kind of debating while you were talking whether I was going to say, but I think this is my favorite of the six, which is strange because it really is a Lister episode. But it really reminds me of the tone of like Body Swap from season 3. That kind of, it's a character study, but it's hilarious, and it's just this whole, like you were saying, you have the messy one and the neat one, and they have to be on the same ship, and hilarity ensues. So I liked Dr. E. She's just adorable, and I'm thinking if there's ever a character in the Red Dwarf universe that I would be like, it would be her. Because I'm always wrong. And And, well, that's probably where the similarities end. But otherwise, it's... I remember when I first saw it, and Lister's going on, like, let it be Kochanski, let it be Kochanski, it's going to be Kochanski. You know, he's so excited. And I'm sitting there going, no, it's not going to be Kochanski. No, if it is, I'm turning off the TV. So when they finally show Dr. Edgington, I'm like, yes, it's not Kochanski. Hooray. All happy and excited. And it's, Rimmer and Forms. So, of course, he would be happy.
My favorite scene from this one is that Rimmer comes in and Lister is all heavy-hearted about losing the ship and losing the bet and all this stuff, and is confessing to Rimmer about how he feels. And Rimmer takes the bait and thinks that he's, finally come around on filling out those forms, and that he's going to do it, and he's going to become a model crewman, and he's going to finally follow all of Rimmer's orders. But no, that's not the case at all. So that they played that really well together.
I'll admit, the whole, I lost Starbug, and it's like, that's horrible, but the good news, I lost Rimmer. So, and as somebody, do you know how much, there is quite a bit of fan fiction regarding that whole thing, and Lister being horribly upset because he lost Rimmer and having to act like he's a jerk and being like, I'm going to be like a kid on Christmas, on Christmas Eve. He goes away tomorrow.
So were you impressed that these guys that can't even construct a properly formed rejuvenation shower can actually reverse genetic engineering?
Impressive.
Very impressive.
Up next, Dear Dave.
We must have sifted through about 1,000 letters now. One letter from home. That's all I'm asking. Just one lousy, stinking letter.
Look, 50 big ones says the first letter's mine.
Why is everything a competition with you? Why can't we just sit here and sort the mail like two mature adults, instead of behaving like two schoolboys who have to bet on everything? Oh, yes, I've got one!
Arnold Rimmer! The man, the myth, the legend, Rimsy. Mr. Popular with a capital P. There's no stopping him. Here he goes.
Who's it from?
It's a parking fine.
Which aired November 1st, 2012, written and directed by Doug Naylor. Caught in a love triangle with two vending machines, Lister also receives a letter from an old girlfriend informing him that he may be a father. Again. This one, I keep saying the word adorable, and I feel like the word is kind of losing its meaning because I just keep saying it. But the vending machines are adorable. And angry, and it makes me very happy that they can give them such strong personalities when they're vending machines. I'm not a big fan of the whole love triangle thing, and I'm not a big fan of the whole he gets the letter from, it's how many million years ago? Like, what does it matter? Really, Lister, little perspective here.
I think that's part of the irony. He's like so starved for human contact that he's living vicariously through this life he never had, or he even thinks that he might have had.
Yeah, it's. I don't know. I like the episode. I like all the episodes. I like the episode, but there's a lot of stuff that is played purely for gags, but they don't pull it off as well as they usually do. Like them looking for that yellow envelope that says whether or not he's the father. Kat finds it, the whole getting rid of all the toilet paper. It's kind of just silly, but not in a good way. And I do have issues with him kind of being all freak out about her possibly having, another guy that could be the father. So, but yeah, it's good. There's lots of good about it. But you can't win them all.
I'm like you. I thought the talking vending machines would be annoying, but they were actually pretty cute. More of an updated version of Talkie Toaster, but funnier to me. And there were a few scenes in here that reminded me of old episodes, and I can't help but think that they did that on purpose. One was the mail pod idea, which they've used before in season 2, where Rimmer gets the telegram that his father died. And the other one was the scene where Lister falls on the vending machine and is trying to get back up, and the others walk in. And that reminded me of the shrinking shorts scene in Polymorph, which was
It wasn't nearly as inappropriate as the shrinking shorts scene was. But,
no.
Definitely had its veins of being a little risque there. I love the charade scene where the cat's trying to let them know what's going on by, spelling it all out with his actions, and he's really dancing and doing all kinds of stuff. But I think we should go back and isolate a bunch of audio from that, because they bring up so many old things from the show throughout the course of the things that they're guessing there.
Buds, best you sit down. I got some bad news.
Whoa, what is it? What's happened?
Is this about me? It's about me, isn't it?
I'm being replaced again, aren't I, sir?
When everyone's sitting down, then you say something like, listen, I got bad news, right?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, here comes the bad news. But I'm gonna do it as charades.
Charades? He means charade, sir.
You know how much fun there is around here? None. It's too good an opportunity to miss. Okay, here we go. Remember, really bad news.
Two words.
Whole thing.
Hole. Black hole. We're being sucked into a black hole. Chameleonic mutant. Brain-eating chameleonic mutant on board. A giant death worm.
Something's happened to Kachansky. She's got a rogue virus. Rimmer's got a rogue virus. I've got a rogue virus. Zombies!
I'm being replaced, aren't I, sir? No one likes me. People have complained about the shape of my head.
Strangling.
A giant death worm. Giant death worm heading straight for us.
Crashed. Something's crashed.
Heading straight for us. I'm being demoted.
Female. A woman. A woman's coming. A woman. Feet. Shorter.
Male. Man.
Male.
Post.
Mail pod.
Mail pod.
The mail pod's arrived.
Mail pod's arrived.
Brilliant. The mail pod's arrived.
And something's happened to it.
Something bad.
It's crashed. The mail pod's crashed. It's
Turned into a
exploded.
giant death worm.
It's turned into a jacket.
A giant death worm's come out of it.
There's nothing to do with a giant death worm. Where you get the giant death worm from?
Your clothes are on a washing line,
jacket.
and a mail pod came in and crashed into your clothes.
Got it in one.
Your clothes are hanging on the line and the mail pod crashed into them. How's that 2 words?
Because when it happened, I said, oh, man.
All right, and now our last story, the beginning.
It appears they've surrounded the asteroid belt and are sending in probes to locate our position.
It's only a matter of time before they find us.
So what's our next move? Shall I go slip into something more appropriate, like, say, a coffin? Is that it? We're all gonna die?
Well, you're all going to die. I'm already dead. I had the sense to get dying out of the way early. For years you mocked me. Not laughing now, are you?
Oh, yeah, because being dead is such an advantage here.
It is an advantage.
How's it an advantage?
I was killed instantly, Lister. Painless, quick, and stylish. What's that coming down the corridor? Ooh, it looks like a radiation leak. Wham, dead. Not perfect, I'll grant you, but at least it wasn't embarrassing.
Embarrassing?
No weeping, getting hysterical. Not one of those deaths where you lose control of your bodily functions. Your bowels clearing all over the place. At least my death was dignified.
I'd hardly call yelling mummy, mummy dignified.
Lister, I didn't yell mummy, mummy.
No, you didn't have the time. You just yelled
Which aired November 8th, 2012, written and directed by Doug Naylor. Surrounded by a simulant death fleet and facing certain death, the crew have only one hope for survival: Arnold Judas Rimmer. This one, far and away, was my favorite episode of the whole season. I love all the characters, but I think at heart Rimmer must be my favorite because almost all of my favorite episodes are about him, and this one actually has a major permanent character change or development or whatever you want to say for Rimmer when he finds out his father is not his father.
You are not.
Rimmer spent his whole life putting himself down for not living up to his father's expectations. And when he finds out that his father was really the gardener and that what he has in life now is actually a step up, he kind of takes charge and he saves the day. So way to go, Rimmer.
Yeah, I can't say enough about this one. I loved it.
Unfortunately, they forgot the gazpacho soup gag because they refer to Rimmer's final words as mummy, mummy.
Not even mummy, mummy, just
that last line, too, was a little sweet nod to the fans, wasn't it? Just repeating the last line of the first episode about the slimes coming home.
Crichton, set a course for Red Dwarf. The slime's coming home.
It made me smile.
For sentimental value, that's my favorite line, just because of the sentimental value. And then I also really like the continuity errors being passed off just as a gag, that they're about to explain what really happened, and they don't really have time because they're in danger.
Kat, what did you think of this one?
I really, really enjoyed it, and I like Rimmer's not the kind of character that can just grow while still staying true to his character. Essentially turning his world upside down, and saying that this guy that you thought you failed all your life is, you're way better than him in actuality, is a really cool way to do it. I will admit, when I saw it for the first time, and I totally called the ending, and I never called the ending. So maybe it wasn't as strong as I had hoped. But there's little elements, and I don't know if it's just me putting them into it or if they meant to do it, but there are little elements of Rimmer once he finds out about his dad, when he's kind of acting brave, when he's, we're going to do this my way, really reminds me of Ace Rimmer, which makes me happy. Mm-hmm. And I kind of wish they could have put a line, anything, a nod, because he's awesome. But no, it's a good story, and I'm hoping it's a nod of what's going to come for season 11. And, kind of this, not a new and improved Rimmer, because we don't need that, but just kind of this Rimmer who is a little more confident, which could be a horrible thing for everybody aboard Red Dwarf. Yeah, maybe just a Rimmer that just has 2 feet underneath of him.
Yeah, I had that written down in my notes, too, that Series 11, whenever they do that, I think it's next year, and just that major development with Rimmer, what they're going to do with that. If they're just going to ignore it, or if they're going to... It'll be kind of dumb for them to ignore it, but I would really like to see what they do with that. And then we get the little jokey post-credits sequence after the credits. But speaking of post-credits, this is a bit off-topic for a second, but have either of you seen...
Oh, no, I missed that. I missed the post-credits thing. You got to tell me about it so I can go back and check it out. What happened?
It was only like 5 seconds. I think they were walking down the corridor, and the sim showed up again and was like... Wasn't that what happened? He showed up and wanted to keep playing or something?
Talk amongst yourself. I'm going to go get my iPad.
What did I tell you? We got out of that okay?
Just like we got out of that thing with a highly corrosive microorganism.
Once again, Big Arm saves the day.
Oh, please, sir, can we sort this out once and for all? Just because you happen
You killed my brother.
But anyway, I didn't know if either of you had seen Blackadder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a really funny show. It had lots of dark humor, and each season was a different era of history. But at the very, very end of each season, there's always a post-credit sequence of just a few seconds that was so extremely dark and sometimes disturbing, probably because it was so out of place with the rest of the season. But I don't know. It just made me think of that when I saw that, because I didn't expect a post-credit sequence on Red Dwarf.
Yeah, Blackadder's definitely in the same vein as Red Dwarf for when it comes to like British comedy. The same kind of British, not necessarily dark comedy, but kind of darker comedy.
Yeah.
As Red Dwarf is. And I mean, it's the same kind of group. Back in the day, you'd have the same kind of actors kind of going from show to show and kind of making little appearances.
Yeah, and I didn't mean the whole series was really dark. I just meant those and I don't want to ruin it for anybody that hasn't seen it, but you know what I'm talking about. Those last 5 or 10 seconds of each season, that was like, what just happened? But anyway, Paul, are you back?
I'm back. I just watched it. I didn't get to hear any of the dialogue, but yeah, it just seems like a little funny little thing that happened at the end there. Have to pick up on that and talk about it next time.
I watched the first episode a few months ago, and it's kind of like, it sounds silly, but I've always been so hesitant to watch these, especially that last one, because...
Now it's all over.
Right. You love the show so much and you don't want it to end, which of course it will eventually. But when I saw the title was the beginning, knowing that the first episode was called The End, it made me a little nervous. Kind of like when you're a kid and there's one ice cream cone left in the box and you want it really bad, but you kind of don't want to eat it because it's the last one. So it's kind of that. But now that I've seen it, I'm like, damn, I should have watched this earlier. I could have seen it a few more times.
Yeah, and the internet tells me that we'll have more Red Dwarf this time next year.
Yeah, I saw that and I was like, I can watch these in peace now.
So I guess this series left us all with hope that the future of Red Dwarf is going to be bright and that our characters are going to continue on and to continue being themselves, but also to be the new and improved version of the characters that we love.
Yeah, it was nice to see a
Lucky.
full season.
I think we're just lucky that the actors are the right age, that they were young enough to have done the series then. They're not too old now. They all are interested in continuing to do it because if one actor says no, then they're not doing it, which they shouldn't.
Right.
But Robert Llewellyn is kind of the most vocal of the group when it comes to Twitter and conventions, things like that, of always saying everybody has fun and this isn't something that they're being dragged into for just for money or just for contract reasons. They all seem like they all get along very well and have fun while they're making the show.
And hopefully Norman's available for the next series too, because I really missed Holly in this whole series 10.
Yeah, I was glad that it was a full season for the first time since '99, and to me probably the best series since maybe 6, I would say. But what did you guys think of all of Series 10 overall?
I agree with you there completely. This one made me feel good. I liked it a lot. I liked it almost as much as Series 1, 2, and 3. So it had a lot of that, but it had the better production values, excellent writing, and just great silly interactions between all of our favorite characters.
It definitely feels like a continuation. It's not a reboot. It's not just a show that features the same characters. Whereas 9 might have felt a bit like that. 10 just definitely feels like they just picked it up, dusted the characters off, and just let them go back to play.
Before we go, I wanted to ask you both something here. We had Luke Harrison on here for Series 7, and he mentioned that there was a funny scene that explained what happened at the end of Series 8 to Rimmer, and I totally missed that. Did anybody catch that?
I think that he was just referring to the continuity error gags, that they were saying that Rimmer saved the day, and then, oh no, we're actually in trouble, so I can't actually explain how I saved the day kind of thing. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think that's what he was referring to.
Okay, then.
I have a question for both of you.
Okay.
What are you dressing up as for Halloween?
Oh, dear. My wife is going as the Wicked Witch of the East. So she's put a box around her, which is the house, and she's got her red slippers on, and then the top half is going to be like kind of beat up a little bit because a house fell on her. And so she wants me to be one of the Lollipop Guild.
Okay.
So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
You should be a flying monkey.
That was also brought up.
They have. I think the Flying Monkeys had fezzes.
Yeah, they did. They
right.
did.
I, fortunately, work somewhere where we're highly encouraged to dress up for Halloween, and we have a big costume contest and stuff. I'm lazy, so I'm using one of the 2 cosplays I have already in my closet. So I'm either going as Badger from Firefly, or I'm going as Rick from The Young Ones.
Cool.
Yeah, I have not completed my War Doctor costume nor my 12th Doctor costume, so those are both out for now. I have ordered something that I'm hoping will get here by Friday, but I don't know if either of you played a classic Nintendo game called Mega Man 3. There was a character in there called Proto Man, and I want to dress up as Proto Man for Halloween.
Awesome.
Yeah, should be fun.
Kat, thanks so much for being on here today. We appreciate you joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was a ball, and I love watching Red Dwarf. So
where can we find your stuff?
Well, if you like hearing me blather on a podcast, then veritypodcast.com. If you like reading me blather on about a topic, I'm on Twitter at Xanister, Xanister, or that same word, .wordpress.com for my essays. And from there, I have all my other stuff linked. So I'm on Tumblr. I'm very active on Tumblr. So if you share any sort of fandom interest with me, happily follow me or poke me on there. And I'm always happy to discuss pretty much anything I'm interested in.
Cool. All right, thanks, Kat.
Thank you.
Coming up next month, we'll be talking all about the spin-off media and merchandise for the entire series of Red Dwarf, including books, fan films, movie rumors, and more. But that's for next time. Say goodbye, Paul.
Goodbye, Paul.
Say goodbye, Kat.
Goodbye, Kat.
Thanks for listening. See you next time.
Thank you for listening to Tongue-Tied, a Red Dwarf podcast. Red Dwarf, the song Tongue-Tied, and all associated material are trademarks of Grant Naylor Productions. No infringement is intended. You can email the podcast at tonguetiedpodcast@yahoo.com. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/tonguetiedpodcast. And follow us on Twitter at tonguetiedpod. For the boys from the Dwarf, this is Paul Towsley saying,
Gadabble, diggle, doggle, niggle, foggle, nibble, nay. I'm trying to say I'm tongue-tied, tongue-tied, whenever you are near me. I'm mummy, 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 mummy.
Hee-ho, Pip and what, sir? Sometimes you have to learn how to lose before you're ready to win. It's all in this fascinating book I'm reading.
Oh, what's it called, sir?
Sometimes you have to learn how to lose before you're ready to win. Do you think that move would work today? Not a chance. Dead move. The cloak across the puddle. Dead move. Strumming a mandolin under the balcony. Dead move.
Don't you know all this, Rimmy? You know nothing about women. You know nothing about nothing. Remember that documentary we watched about breasts? You thought Areolas was a Spanish goalkeeper.
Well, what was he, Italian?
How can you be jealous? Those Space Call jocks were all jerks. Just a load of overprivileged, practical joke-playing party boys.
Party boys? They were Space Marines, Listy, ripped and pipped. Do you know what their slogan is? While you sleep, we're probably saving the universe.
You sure? I thought it was, while you sleep, we're probably shaving off your pubes and gluing them to your head.
ROCpodcasts.com